Well, I ask because some of your Democratic colleagues say that they don't think the administration has a clear end game in Iran. Do you have concerns about how they know when to be done with Iran?
Kaitlan Collins of CNN had MAGA supporter and Democrat in name only John Fetterman on her show, where Fetterman appeared to defend the Trump administration and its controversial actions related to Iran. And in the conversation, he pushed back against criticism of the administration's approach, which led to a tense exchange between him and Collins. So we are going to take a look at clips from that discussion. A somewhat heated conversation between Kaitlan Collins and MAGA-aligned John Fetterman. And I also want to share my own thoughts on what was said. So let's check it out together.
President Trump this week began referring to the war with Iran as an excursion. As today, which is it, excursion or war, the president offered this explanation.
You just said it is a little excursion, and you said it is a war. So which one is it?
Well, it's both. It's both. It's an excursion that will keep us out of a war, and the war is going to be. For them, it's a war. For us, it's turned out to be easier than we thought.
And joining me tonight is Democratic Senator of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. And thank you, Senator, for being here. Do you agree with President Trump when he says that he believes the United States has won the war at this point?
I think what I would agree with is that I think the outcome thus far has been outstanding. I mean, if you just look at the metrics, that the missile and the drone attacks are down in the 90s%. And Iran really has been inability to just strike back and hit our assets or Israel much right now. So after eliminating all of the leadership after 7 or 8 days and achieving air supremacy after a couple days, I think overall, I think it's been an outstanding where we're at.
When do you think it would get to a point where you would call it a victory?
Well, I mean, who exactly knows? But I know Israel's going to continue to pound Lebanon and well as Iran now too. As now we can't forget exactly what's accomplished. They were able to eliminate most of the leadership and actually effectively destroyed their military apparatus. And the only thing that they've ever been to do is fire off a couple random drones and do the thing. They've been unable to impact about either the Israeli society or their military or ours here.
Well, I ask because some of your Democratic colleagues say that they don't think the administration has a clear end game in Iran. Do you have concerns about how they know when to be done with Iran?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much aware that I'm the only Democrat in the Senate that supports this operation, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I would remind all of your viewers, whether it was Hillary Clinton when she was running for president or Kamala Harris when she was running just in 24. In fact, she actually identified Iran as her top concern. You know, she called Iran a grave danger. And now every single Democrat agrees that they can never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. And now Donald Trump has done that, made that virtually impossible to achieve their nuclear weapons. And they've effectively broke the entire Iranian military apparatus. I don't know why we as Democrats, if we had all those kinds of goals and those kinds of concerns, and now that he's achieved that, why now we only can criticize that, or they could always make it seem like it's been a failure or things are out of control. That's just categorically not true. And now I think my hard red line, boots on the ground. That's when I would get concerned if they start to talk about boots on the ground. And now I think even Secretary Hegseth has even said, no nation building, no nation building. No one wants to be a part of that. That was never a part of this mission thus far. When every single Democrat is, have to sit back and witness Trump developing this kinds of situation, or every single Democrat wanted those things. Now, I'm not sure why they can't just acknowledge that that's been a positive outcome, whether that's just politics. For me, it's just been nothing more than a choice of country over what parts of the base would demand to condemn or pretend that it's a terrible situation.
Okay, so your red line is putting U.S. forces on the ground in Iran. The president said today that he views this both as a war and an excursion. When you talk to people in Pennsylvania, do they view this as an excursion?
I would see this as us achieving a critical goal that I would remind people that whether it's Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris all agree we should never allow anyone to acquire a nuclear bomb. I would challenge any single member of the Democratic in the House. You know, are you okay with Iran acquiring a nuclear bomb? I don't think anyone is okay with that. And now Trump made that now virtually impossible. I can say I would describe that an incredibly positive development, something that we all Democrats support, or we all wanted to have those things.
But I think some people may take issue with the term excursion that the president has used, given U.S. forces have died as a result of this. How do you see that term?
I'm not getting into semantics. Call it what it is. I would call it as thus far incredibly successful, and that's very compatible with every of the wishes and the concerns of the Democratic presidential candidates, and now anyone that's serving in Congress, you know, here in Pennsylvania or in any state in our country. And if
John Fetterman should just drop out of the Democratic Party now and become a Republican or an independent, because the reality is that the vast majority of Democrats strongly disagree with him on this issue, and it is not just Democrats either, because when you look at the country as a whole, including Republicans, independents, and Democrats, the polling sits at around 40% approval, which is even lower than the Iraq War was at any point, and the main reason is that Trump suddenly jumped into this situation without really trying to explain it to the American people, which to some might not seem like it should matter that much, but clearly does play a role in the low polling numbers. And another reason is that people feel like they have seen this story before and do not want to go through it again, yet John Fetterman is trying to present the situation as some kind of success when in reality it has been a disaster, because the administration's messaging has been filled with misinformation, with Trump known for making false claims as easily as he speaks and others in the administration repeating the same talking points, while reports now suggest that Iran has already responded by striking U.S. bases and causing more damage than the public is being told, raising serious questions about whether the full truth is actually being shared.
you're aware of a House representative or a senator that's okay with that, I would love to just talk to them why it's okay that if Iran would acquire a nuclear bomb.
You mentioned how you differ from your colleagues, your other fellow Democrats. Every Senate Democrat except you signed a letter today to Secretary Hegseth asking for an investigation into that strike on a girls' school in Iran. Why did you not sign that letter, Senator?
Well, because we all agree that it's a tragedy having the school hit. Absolutely. And we all agreed now for an investigation. What I don't agree with the rest of my colleagues in the House is that it's a war of choice, or it's dumb, or all the things that my colleagues have described, this operation. I think it's a good thing, and I support that. So we agree that and actually the Pentagon is already investing it. They just acknowledged then that it seems increasingly likely that we were now on that. And now I think it's entirely appropriate. Just like my colleague from Louisiana said, it's like, we should apologize that. That's a tragedy. And I would remind everybody listening right now, the United States never, ever targets civilians. Iran does, and including their own citizens. And they massacred that 35,000 of them just a couple of weeks ago. And the left, please, the left media is much more angry, about or talking about this hospital, and it is a tragedy. But they didn't seem to be as concerned about the Iranians massacring tens of thousands of their young people just a couple of weeks ago too. So we agree on many parts of it, but we both disagree. I mean, we all disagree that I think it's a good thing, and every single other Democrat in the caucus caused it all kinds of in negative terms.
We did cover the protest in Iran extensively here at CNN. Obviously, they said a lot about how internally people felt about the regime. But just to be clear,
I don't know,
you do believe if the United States
media, and I didn't refine you as.
I understand. I just wanted to make that clear to our viewers that we did cover that. But just to be clear, you do believe if the United States was responsible, that the Pentagon should acknowledge that they accidentally hit a girls' school.
Yeah, I've said that. I said it seems that they've already acknowledging all those things. I think largely that letter, it was rendered moot at this point after that's already come out. Now the Pentagon has agreed that they were behind that. And I don't know what your network talked about, but what I'm saying that whether like it's the New York Times, they're making it more and more trying to convince America that this has been a disaster or things are out of control. And that's just categorically not true on that.
I just think it deserves coverage. Obviously, given the number of children who were killed as a result of it, it obviously matters what happened there. We'll see what the Pentagon investigation says. Senator John Fetterman, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for joining us, as always, here.
Yes. No, you don't have to cut me off here.
Go ahead, Senator. We're not cutting you off.
Well, you said something that it's appropriate to cover it. It is appropriate to cover it. It's a tragedy. Absolutely. And if we were on that, it's entirely appropriate for her to apologize. If you're implying that I don't think it's wrong to cover it. That's just not true. Yes, it's being covered. I just want to clarify that. It just seemed like a short shut off there to imply that I didn't want to carry that, or I think it's entirely appropriate to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not implying that. I just wanted to clarify why we're covering it for everyone who's watching. Senator, thank you. I do always appreciate hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you.
I do wish Kaitlan Collins had pushed back a little more, but this is about what we have come to expect from CNN, and overall I think she usually does a pretty solid job, yet there were several things John Fetterman said that deserve to be challenged, starting with the issue of the girls' school where he claimed the Pentagon admitted the United States was responsible. Because as far as I can tell, Donald Trump himself never clearly admitted that, and instead initially blamed Iran, and when evidence appeared showing the strike involved Tomahawk missiles, which strongly suggested U.S. involvement, Trump tried to deflect by saying other countries also have Tomahawk missiles, which simply is not accurate, and I would also challenge the idea that the attack on that school was just an accident. Because while that specific school has received the most attention and absolutely deserves constant coverage across all networks so the story is not pushed aside, the broader pattern tells a more troubling story, since reports now suggest that double-digit numbers of schools and hospitals have been bombed, and in several cases there is evidence of what are called double taps, meaning a strike happens and then another strike follows shortly after, often hitting the same location again, and when Fetterman claims the United States does not target civilians, that claim does not hold up against history, because throughout the Iraq and Afghanistan wars there were documented cases where U.S. aircraft struck a target and then launched a second strike when ambulances and rescue crews arrived, people who were clearly civilians rather than military targets, which means Fetterman is either repeating something that simply is not true or he has fully accepted the messaging and propaganda pushed by current and previous administrations that the United States never hit civilian targets. When the historical record shows that reality has often been far more complicated, we know there is a lot of evidence of double taps over the years, and sadly there is a possibility that something similar may have happened with this girls' school as well, so the idea John Fetterman is trying to present, that the United States is always the clear good guy in situations like this, is something many people in the public simply are not buying anymore, because most people are now seeing this as a war of choice, even though Fetterman insisted that it was not, and the basic fact remains that Iran did not actually attack the United States, no matter how many arguments are made about the past 47 years or repeated claims from Trump and his supporters who appear on shows like Kaitlan Collins' program and others across the networks, because the reality is they say Iran might have attacked or could have attacked, but the truth is they did not. Which means this still qualifies as a war of choice regardless of how Fetterman tries to frame it. And this is another point where I wish Kaitlan Collins had pushed back more strongly during the interview, although overall the discussion still raises an important question, so I want to know what you think in the comments about whether John Fetterman should remain in the Democratic Party or move somewhere else politically, because he seems almost proud of being one of the only senators openly supporting this position, while many people believe he should actually feel embarrassed about it, and from that perspective some argue that every Democrat in Congress should be voting against funding for this and making it clear they will not support it financially, since many voters, especially within the Democratic base, believe that is exactly what their representatives should be doing, and supporters of that view also argue that taking that stance is one of the things Democrats would need to do if they hope to succeed in upcoming midterm elections. So let me know what you think in the comments about whether you agree more with John Fetterman's position or with Kaitlan Collins' questioning, even if her responses sometimes seemed a bit restrained. And if you found the discussion useful, make sure to like the video and subscribe.